So we actually have a really cool guest this week. So we're gonna jump right into things. So if you follow along on our schedule, we're having a Drekker beer. Which if you guys haven't heard of Drekker, I don't know where you live or what beers you keep up on, but they're going to be kind of a big deal. So I'm pretty excited for this guest because I've had a couple of their beers and I haven't had a bad one yet. So, Phil, if you want to bring in Mark.
Of course.
Hey, Mark.
Hey.
Hey, everybody.
So this is Mark Bjornstad. He is the co-founder and the current president of Drekker, which, again, kind of a big deal, which is super cool. And where are you guys out of, Mark?
We're out of Fargo, North Dakota.
Which is so exciting to me because when we talked a few minutes before the show, that accent sounded like you were from that area for a long time, but I wasn't sure, so I didn't want to ask.
That's almost Canada.
Really?
Almost.
Yeah. Good Lord.
How's the weather?
I knew that. I knew that question was coming.
It hasn't turned yet.
Yeah.
We've still got a couple nice weeks.
Yeah, it's probably still really pretty out there right now. Like, I mean, spring and summer is probably ideal temperature, I would imagine.
Fall's my favorite time of year.
Yeah.
Leaves are changing. It's not too hot. Nice cold breeze. It's amazing up here.
Fair. I dig it.
I'm also a big fan of autumn. It's my jam.
So
I'm a huge fan of seasons, which is why I live in Los Angeles, where they're
dummy.
So
like good call.
Yeah.
Oh, it's sunny today. Great.
Yeah.
Right.
Again,
so the one question I always ask everybody is, when did you get into beer? Why beer?
Yeah, I think beer for us was never the question. We always loved beer. I think the reason we got into it is we love the potential of beer. What you can do around it, what you can do with it, and what you can do or who you can bring together and what type of a community you can make with it. So that's why we got into beer. I think just for that placemaking and community building.
Yeah, and it's funny in the beer world because that seems to be, despite a lot of the attention that the beer world is getting right now for some negative reasons, most of the folks we've talked to and most of the breweries that we've dealt with, like that seems to be somewhat of a thread throughout all of them. Is that how important what the beer can do for the community and what the community does for the beer? And
but I think not to make a position statement on what's been going on in the beer industry, that isn't something specific to the beer industry. That's the whole entire world that this problem exists in.
Yep.
I think that's some of the belief and some of the hope I have for the beer industry is that the reason that it's in the beer industry right now is the beer industry has a place where this can be talked about, and we have people that want to see these change happens. And so it's not great that this is happening, but it's great that we're talking about it. And I'm really hopeful that the beer industry is the industry that can deal with this, because it's shocking that almost no other industry is reeling with this. Because this is, the beer industry is not even the biggest problem of this whole thing.
Right.
So I think that's why that's why it's getting talked about here, because I think the beer industry has the potential to deal with this and bring it to the community and create a better place.
Agreed.
That's all I'll say. I don't want to make too much of a stand.
No, I love you're on safe company with us because we've had this conversation in multiple facets for the same reason.
Well, I was going to say, so, within other industries, like it's always very competitive, whereas the beer industry, like it's still like a competition of like, obviously you want to, make money. But it's such still like a tight-knit community that it is an opportunity where people can come together across all the different breweries in different states and communities and come together as an open discussion. So
I dig it.
So I guess we can talk. So Drekker, right? So big deal. I remember the first one I had was amazing. It was
Ectogasm.
Yes. So you guys have been extremely successful since you opened, and you've been able to brew a ton of different beers and a lot of different styles. Like, I guess what's your favorite style? And then kind of, take us through like the last however many years, because that is a trivia question, of being open and kind of like what that's been,
What that's been like?
Yeah.
So favorite beer or favorite beer styles?
Mhm.
That's, I mean, I'm sure you get the similar answer from everybody, but that's such a hard question because, you know, I view beer on the consumption side. I view beer on the sales side and just kind of just in the community and what the industry is like. And then, and then we view beer on the creation side. And for, what we do inside the brewery and the beers we're creating, I love a lot of beers because of how hard it was to source that ingredient or figure out this one little nuance in there. And in the end, if I had that beer from any other brewery, I wouldn't know that backstory and I probably wouldn't appreciate it.
Sure.
So there's beers inside our brewery that I just absolutely love for what it did or how what we pulled off or what we were trying to do, and I have some appreciation for that. So there's some small beers that I absolutely love and cherish. But honestly, IPAs, especially hazy IPAs are really like what I just absolutely love. I can't get enough of them. I love the best of them. I want to try all of them. There's just so many nuances to that style.
Yeah.
But honestly, the beer that I'm always kind of jonesing is I want a 2% alcohol Farmhouse table beer every day, all day.
I love it.
Wow.
That is Daniel's jam.
That is my
I'm
jam.
gonna say for similar reason. I really like lighter lagers and pilsners, not like Bud Light lagers, but like
Mhm.
an actual traditional, because they're easy. I mean, they're usually no more than 5%, and so I can enjoy it. It's tasty, and it's not like super filling or like I'm gonna be wasted after one beer.
Right.
In theory, it
Well, yeah.
depends on what I've eaten that day.
Yeah.
So what is it about 2% Farmhouse that makes it what you really love? I haven't dug into them deeply, so I'm intrigued.
There's just something so so communal about the beer. Like, you could be having this beer at breakfast, at the table, at lunch, and it's and really like I love how much character can still be in that beer, but be 2% and finish crazy clean and be subtle, but have all this complexity underneath it too. And then the other thing I love about it is that unlike any other style that's going on today, that's probably a beer that was really close to like what people were drinking at some of the beginning stages of brewing as an industry. What we think about, Europe, like that grisette table beer, that Farmhouse beer that, they drank because it was safer than water. Those weren't highly alcoholic, and they were just alcoholic to make them safe. And so that low ABV, you could drink it for lunch and still go back to work. And so I just love thinking about where this beer started and where it is today and everything that's happening in between. And I don't know, that beer just makes me think about it, makes me love it. And then I love sharing them at the table because it's such a fun, weird little beer.
It is. I'm always excited when there's a brewery around us that's put out a couple of them over the years, kind of just sporadically and randomly. And I'm always stoked when I go in there. I'm like, a 2%er that's like a Farmhouse style. I'm like, yeah. And then I go backwards on it though. I'm like, yeah, give me a growler of it. And I'm like, well, that was counterproductive.
Because you can just finish that.
Yeah.
Are you guys brewing any of these like really low ABV beers right now?
Not any super low like that. We personally, I love those as like food or fermented, either spontaneous or mixed fermentation.
Sure.
And right now we won't produce mixed ferms in our brewery, but we're in the process of building out a facility where we can do mixed ferms and do that right. And so we'll be having some of these, I think, come out in the next 6 months to a year, probably.
Nice. And are you worried about the mixed fermentation because of your current brew houses? Like you don't want to.
Yeah, just with our house yeasts and like normal ale and lager yeasts, and then those mixed ferms are all wild and spontaneous yeast and bacteria, and those are just real common contaminants in there. So we want to keep those super separate and not mess up each other.
Yeah, because they're supposed to be like really hard to clean out too. It's takes like 3 times as many clean cycles and
Yeah, and then some of that, I mean, for the same reasons that it takes 9 months to a couple years to make some of those beers, sometimes that yeast doesn't show itself until it's present in many, many, many beers that you've been producing, and now you've 3 months later, all of your IPAs are now all infected.
Yeah.
You don't know it right away. So it's bad stuff all around, but that's also kind of what makes those beers so special. It's like eating blowfish sushi. This is dangerous and we shouldn't be doing this, but
damn it, I'm excited.
all right. Well, I almost answered some of the trivia questions, so let's actually roll into trivia before I shoot myself.
Let's do some trivia. I dare you. That's your cue, Phil.
All right, here we go.
No, wait, no.
Oh no.
No,
what
sir.
happened to our scene?
You have let me down. Didn't play my favorite slide.
It's the only reason I do trivia is just for that.
Exactly. So for those of you who may not have seen some previous shows or just joining us, this is the portion of the show where we go through a little bit of some trivia questions about the brewery or the specific beer or the brand in general of whoever we're having on. So today we're going to do some trivia about Drekker, and luckily we've got Mark here to hopefully answer all the questions correct. That makes me so nervous every time.
He doesn't have a good overall trivia score.
Oh yeah, I'm batting like 0.0000 on trivia.
You got a little bit more. You're like at 2%.
Yeah.
Much like the beers.
True.
Much like a farmhouse fan.
Yeah.
All right. So true or false? Drekker is the largest brewery in North Dakota and opened in 2012.
Man.
Also, if you are logged
I don't like the double question.
I know you hate them. That's why I do them on purpose. If you're logged in to YouTube, you can actually comment along with us and play trivia.
So so for me, I try to do as little research as possible and just wildly guess because I'm here for beer and hats. So for me, 2012 seems early to me because I've only recently had a Drekker beer, and I'd like to think maybe I've had a lot of beer.
I mean, our numbers don't lie, but we're also drinking a lot of local ones too.
Yeah, that's true.
And we have not made it to Fargo, North Dakota.
I'm going to go with true then, because why would you put this in here like touting their ability to be Vero made it to Argentina. Great. See, now we have international viewership. I like that.
I'm going to go with true on this one as well.
Yeah. Why would you put it in here if it was false? Like, psych, they're the smallest.
And they opened up last year.
It's half true. It was 2014.
Vero always does her research. So 2014. So you guys are 7 years in now.
Yep.
Does
we just had our anniversary party maybe 2-3 weeks ago.
Does that feel crazy from your standpoint to be 7 years into the business?
Like time is an absolute illusion to us. Yeah. We can't tell if this has been forever or a day.
Sounds like our relationship.
Yeah, sounds like our relationship. We can't tell if we've always done this or it's brand new. No, but that's exciting though, because usually if time is moving in that capacity and everybody's working well together, it typically means you're having a good time, which helps a ton, I would imagine.
Yeah. Yep.
However, so the largest brewery in North Dakota, like that's killer. Yeah. So I guess what's your usual output, like compared to like some of the other ones? Like,
honestly, like I think that's true. I'm pretty sure it is. We do like about 12,000 barrels a year.
Nice.
Of beer, and I have no idea where that compares to anyone else, because to us, size is not a metric that it's not a goal on anything we do. I think that's just that's a byproduct of something else. And the fun part is that's probably all the beer we're ever going to make in a year, because we are totally maxed out at the brewery and we really don't have plans to expand much more. So that's who we are, and that's about what it's going to be. We're just going to stay ourselves.
I mean,
I think that's a good business
Yeah.
I love
model.
that.
Yeah.
and I did do some research, and I read that last year you guys brewed 125 different beers, and 80 of them were brand new beers. So like the creative aspect of what you guys are creating and like shipping out, and I mean there's a lot. You guys have a lot going on. So
Yeah, and that's by design. I mean, I think we would have lost interest if that's what we weren't doing.
Sure.
That's the way we love it. We love making a ton of different beers throughout the year, and we love creating new ones all the time. So I'm excited to see where this year ends up. I have some goals internally on how many new beers we wanted to do, and I'm not going to blow our secret on what I hope it is, but I think we're going to hit it, and
Nice.
to me that's the more fun part.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
that is cool.
Well, I'll keep my fingers crossed for you.
Yeah. All right, what's our next question?
All right. So what does Drekker mean?
If it's not drunken rackets, I quit.
Yeah. So
Okay,
it's
no.
either A, drunken rackets, some combination of a Viking longship, to drink, and a drink on draft, an old family last name from the original immigrants to America, or D, the name of one of the more famous longships from the height of the Viking period, which, for those of you who don't know, is the 9th to the 11th century.
Yes, I'm very familiar with 9/11. Nope,
Oh,
nope.
yeah.
I see it now. 9th to 11th. You got to get one of those.
Did
in
you-
every now and again.
I like to think Tiffany threw in the trickery with the 9th to 11th century part.
No, that was actually just, regardless of whether that's correct or not, that is a correct piece of information for you that maybe you'll pull out later in life at
In
some
the Jeopardy show.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with D because I based off the insignia. I got a combination of everyone else is going B. This is why I'm bad at this.
You gotta wait.
Yeah, I was going D with this too, and now the answers that other people are throwing out, it's confusing me.
Crap, it's D. No, wait, it's B.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to stick to my D choice.
Okay. So it is B. Mark. So when I was reading this, it's super interesting that you guys were creative and like just kind of put like this hodgepodge of Old Norse words together. Like, how did you guys come up with this?
Yeah, it actually worked out better than we had hoped on that because we wanted to make, we wanted something that had this Norse culture that's, very strong in our community, in our families. And we also liked kind of playing around with some of this, having this Viking story or this element to it, because it's not something that's current. It's almost folklore. The Vikings don't seem real. That seems kind of like a part of mythical culture, but there's so much fun you can have on it. And whether it's history or folklore or all those things, there's just a whimsical element to like the Norse culture. So that's what we wanted to do. When we were looking into it, Old Norse words have, there's just a handful of vowels in the whole dictionary. It's so hard to pronounce a lot of those words. And we had a lot of great ideas, but what we kept coming back to is this root word of like drek or dreka or these things, and they mean to drink or what a draft drink is, and then some of the other variations of that are this Viking dragon ship, and that's a huge part of that culture and harkens to like some local stuff. And when we started putting the words together, we wanted to mash those words up. We kind of made up the word Drekker, so we thought. And we also liked it because it's pronounceable. It's very symmetrical. It looks nice, on label stuff. And there's not really a approachability problem trying to pronounce it, right. Which happens with a lot of like Old Norse words or things like that.
Yeah.
But then we found out too that the current language for Old Norse is Icelandic, and in Icelandic language, the kind of the slang term for or what they would use, they would say dreka, and the way it's written right now, that's the act of going out and drinking with your friends, and kind of what that means to like be around each other and share a pint and that camaraderie around it. And I loved that idea of, it's almost like, Scandinavian like hygge idea, where there's this like intentional practice of how you get comfortable, and then there's this intentional practice of how you drink and share and build a community around it. And that's what Drekker is. That's what that word means to us. And that's, like I said in the beginning, that's why we got into this. It's not just the beer product. We love that. We love using that as a tool, but it's more about what happens around it.
And that makes a lot of sense. Just obviously just looking at the word, I would never have like caught a lot of that, but I love the fact that it's got that heavy of a background to just even the name of the brewery, much less the can art, the insignia, like where it goes from there.
Right. That kind of goes back to, what you were saying about why you like beer so much. It's the backstories and like, the ingredients and, kind of the how it was made, like in the background. So
true story. Let's do one more trivia question, but let's crack this beer open so that we can start trying it while we go through this next question.
Okay.
I agree. Never going to complain about having to crack the beer open.
I know.
True or false, one of Drekker's beers called Broken Rudder Red Ale got its name from a local Viking enthusiast who built a traditional ship and then with the help of his family sailed that ship to Norway.
Is this another trick, true or false? Like
Would
you
you
did
like
to me
me to
earlier?
pour this
No,
beer?
I nailed it. Don't even worry about it, man. I've been doing this for days. At this point.
Not good at pouring.
I am so bad at pouring a beer. It's terrible. Is there any trickery in this one?
I don't know. You tell me.
Like, just come on, man.
Is it true or false?
I'm going with true on this one.
Broken.
I'm just going all in with it.
Ale. Boy, but if you've had 2 Broken Rudder Red Ales, that's a tough one. I'll have the Broken Rudder Red Ale. Thank you. I will also go true because Vero said true. And let's not kid ourselves. If anyone does their homework. So we're going to go true. Is that a true statement?
Yes.
That was for Mark. Mark's supposed to answer
Mark,
that.
go ahead.
Yes. Yep. That's the story of the Yumkats ship, which means homecoming.
Okay.
And that was so there was a gentleman in the late 70s and early 80s that had a dream to build a Viking ship, full scale, by hand, felled trees off of the river around here, and him and his family and the greater community ended up finishing this ship, building it. They did some test sailing in Duluth. And so during the process, he actually he got sick with leukemia, and that's when the community and the rest of the family really had to pile in. And he was able to sail the ship in Duluth, but then passed away over that winter. And so then his family kind of kept it together, and they sailed the ship all the way through the Great Lakes, and then from New York Harbor onto Norway. And it, like, everything that could have gone wrong did, and I think it made it the amazing story that it is. So I think there's like a documentary from the 80s, and it's definitely from the 80s, but you can find it on YouTube, and it is just an absolutely crazy story what these people did and what they got themselves into out in the open water with this old school Viking ship. And it's a huge part of our community, and we hearken it back to that's what in the middle of the voyage they got into this huge storm, and their rudder broke off, and there's a whole bunch of other things that were going on. And that's the worst thing that can happen to a Viking ship in these big sails, is because they're really shallow bottoms. If that thing turns in the waves, it'll tip. That's the only way that ship doesn't make it, is it capsizes in there. So you need that rudder to stay with the waves. And they got creative, broke out floorboards, built a new rudder right away in the middle of the storm, and got through it. And so we're happy to have that. To honor part of that story. And then that's part of the reason that Norse culture is just so strong in our area, because it's just deeply ingrained into what this community was built on.
Yeah, that's super cool. Like, that's always one of my favorite things, is to hear
awesome.
some of the backdrop on these beers, or where people come from and why they got into beer, or, like for you guys with everything in the Nordic culture. That's the first time I've heard any of these stories, which is crazy.
He doesn't get out much.
It's also just so great because I feel like you've got so many stories to go off this that are so cool, that match the whole style of the beer and the brewery.
Yep.
Right.
So awesome.
And isn't that ship actually, it was like donated back to the town, so it's like something you can go visit?
Yep. So there's it's a really cool museum that the ship is inside, preserved. They have, the whole story laid out, a whole bunch of other things. And then now it's actually in, what houses it is the local historical and cultural society museum. So there's other kind of founding history of the area. This was a pioneer land. The original people that settled it. There's a great pieces in there about the Native American communities that lived in the area. And then there's always rotating museums or historical or cultural aspects that they're going through. So that's it's a great museum and great asset to the town.
Very cool. All right, so tell me about Hidden Vision here.
Yeah, so this is a beer we did with our friends at Deciduous.
I was gonna say this is a collab, right?
Yep.
I saw that when I checked it in on Untapped. Yeah.
Yep. So Deciduous is out of Newmarket, New Hampshire, and awesome, absolutely awesome people. We had a ton of fun coming up with these with this recipe. For us, one of the reasons we love doing collabs is, well, for one, we just love playing around, having fun, getting to meet other people, and then two, it's a really fun way to either mash up, our IP approach to their IP approach.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a great way where we can test out new ideas and see how things will work. So what's really cool about this IPA is you tell me, it's a double IPA. I don't think anyone would really question the IPA-ness or the bitterness of that beer. But that's a beer that was brewed with absolutely zero hot side hops. So it's and it's not even any Whirlpool hops, which in the like the New England style or hazy IPAs, so almost no boil hops are being used anymore. That's way pulled back compared to West Coast. Hazy IPAs will have big, huge Whirlpool additions. We didn't even use a Whirlpool addition on this one. We did it all by doing fermentation, dry hopping. So doing dry hopping doses during fermentation, letting the yeast do some biotransformation flavors and have activity with all that. And then there's just an absolutely insane amount of hops in that. And that's what starts to build that. I mean, that's why it's so big, and you have to really jam pack a beer to get it up to that flavor level with just dry hopping.
Yeah, that's really interesting because it's so to be I expected it to be hazy, like that. That was a given for me after reading some of the stuff about it, but it's not as like hazy on the taste end of things to me, which may be some contribute to how you guys actually made it, that it's not as hazy. A lot of hazy beers get really stringent for me, like on the front end, like it almost feels like it burns my lips or like burns a little bit when I drink it. This one doesn't do that, which is fantastic.
I just like that it's a double and it isn't like a punch you in the face alcoholic beer. Because there's some that they do like totally like heavily hop it, and because of it, it becomes like there's just some IPAs that are just super bitter and alcoholic, and it's just because there's just too much going on in it. It's a really like smooth and like it's a well balanced double IPA. I enjoy it. I will have some.
And this beer uses some really, really fun hops too. We put in, Citra, which is one of our absolute favorite hops, and then spread in some Topaz and Motueka which are kind of weird, elusive flavor. I always think that those ones they're shape shifting hops. They change. They change so dramatically on how you use them, and every time I go back into a beer with either one of those or a lot of Southern Hemisphere hops, it changes. I find something new each time. It's really a fun journey to kind of keep tasting those beers.
That's interesting because this is like an 8.2. I
think it's somewhere on there,
right?
Just a hair over 8.
I'm sure it varies can to can.
I don't know.
No, it's a joke. No, this is really stellar though.
Yeah.
And we've had several other Drekker beers as well. We've been lucky enough. There's a place around us that has some of them somewhat regularly on draft, and then we got this from a tiny little bottle shop that was just opening up, and I was really excited to see you guys popping up.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun in Virginia. That's a great state. We send beer quite a bit over to Virginia and kind of up the coast north of there.
Yep. Yeah, I was going to say, coming out of North Dakota, you got to send it North Virginia as well. I mean, I'm sure everybody that far up can relate, right?
They're all angry because it's cold.
This doesn't seem like an angry person.
I don't know.
No.
I don't.
No, I'm angry when it's hot. I am real crabby when it's hot. Cold, happy as could be.
I'm okay with this.
I just like a standard.
You're in the right place.
I don't want it to be too hot or too cold. Just like in the 70s, 60s. That's it. Anything above or below, I'm not good.
So we got a question here. By only using dry hop, does it make it taste more green? Makes it feel like a lighter IPA?
Yeah. So with that, the word like green on an IPA, I always think that heavily dry hopped IPAs can get that green, or a lot of us in the industry call it green. We call it hop burn. That when that, at least for and I think that's usually in the first couple weeks of a fresh IPA. When you're doing that much dry hopping, you're leaving around, there's so much in the beer that hop matter stays suspended in the beer for a while. And those acids and other particles, they kind of give you this spicy burning sensation. And that'll usually, if the beer's not filtered or centrifuged or anything, or just aged, that'll go away in a little bit. We centrifuge all of our IPAs. And so every IPA is centrifuged after a dry hopping round, and centrifuge isn't filtering, that's just separating. What it lets us do is we send the beer through kind of spins the beer really, really fast, and we can control it. We have a lot of ways we can decide how much we're going to spin off, but we can spin off that hop solid. And on that green factor, even just using a centrifuge, we always think it's about a 2-week time machine, that it takes a beer fresh out of the tank and turns it into what it would have been in 2 weeks of conditioning. So we try not to make any of our beers really, really green, but that can definitely happen from heavy dry hopping. Sure. And that idea of, whether it's a lighter on the bitterness, you can definitely avoid that bitterness by not doing any boil hops. But in big IPAs, you can get that same feeling of bitter, spicy, burn, whatever it is. Those are all really common flavors. You can get that just from aggressive dry hopping too.
That makes sense. I know you've got to run here shortly. We do have one last trivia question. It was the very last one, Phil, that you slightly brought up earlier.
Oh.
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
I don't feel it.
Is there a chance you can put that up?
Hold on. You're throwing me off, so here we go.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. True. No one needs to answer. This is I'm sure you guys have a merch store. Is your merch store available online? Am I available to purchase a hat? Would you send me a hat? This is literally the only reason I do this show.
It is.
Just here for the hats.
That's it. I'm here for the hats and the beer.
I think he has 30 hats. 32. I counted.
This is my dad. This is my dad hat.
It's my hat
because
you stole it. It's my gym hat.
I don't want to wear another beer hat when somebody's been kind enough to be on the show. So this is my drab gray, just dad hat.
Yeah. No, we've got a huge online store and have tons of that stuff. Hit us back up, and Haley and I will get some stuff sent out to you guys too.
Yes, that's the only reason I do this.
So with that, well, one, thank you, but two, last words. Do you want to?
Well, not last words. I hope you make it out well. But...
no.
Your final words.
Any upcoming events, beers you guys have brewing? There's a bunch more trivia questions that we can post for everyone else as well, because there's a lot more interesting information. But just anything you want to pitch.
No, I think, we just really appreciate all the support and love we get. We love interacting with people on, social media is so much fun because we get to chat right with people. On the new beer stuff, we're on like every other Fridays when we release new beers. So this is a release week. I think we've got 5 on the release this week. We're always dropping new stuff. Always fun and weird, and we love hearing what people think of them and having fun with those beers. On the horizon, I think we've got some really fun stuff too that just as a company we're really excited about. We're building out kind of this bigger tent than what just Drekker is, and we call that Valhalla.
Oh, nice.
And that's kind of our whole idea of what the umbrella of the community we want to build is. Drekker is going to be part of that, but we're really excited to make that tent even bigger. So we're in the process right now of building out attached to the brewery. We call it a food and entertainment wonderland. It's our little playground. It's this fun, weird, whimsical place. And so what all builds into it is a food market, food hall, retail market, an event center where we can throw all of our little weird festivals and events and creepy fun things that we love to do during the year. And then there's just this killer awesome hotel that's built on top of it. So people can come and enjoy the experience with us, kind of be fully immersed in everything we're doing out here, whether that's events or weird beers or the cool market and all the other partners that we have in there. And then the hotel every room in the hotel is a different beer label and design and kind of niche to it. And so the experience just keeps going. And that's our little dream world. I've been watching. The construction is all happening out of our office windows. So some days, if you kind of are watching and we're not responding to posts really very much, or it seems like we forgot to do the 4th of the 5 beers, it's because something really crazy happened and we've just been watching it all day and lost track of time. But that's what we've got going on. Did you guys have any other questions for me or what the heck we're doing?
I already sent the hotel stuff to Phil and Daniel when it was like released publicly. When does it open officially? I think you guys are like already taking reservations and stuff for like when it does, right?
No, not yet.
Okay.
So it'll be the building should be done sometime next summer, by the end of next summer. And so we're hoping to have everything open and ready to go early next fall. So we're about a year away.
Yeah, I love that
right.
idea in general, like the entirety of the umbrella and bringing everything into that space that sounds like a blast. I'm looking forward to it.
We're gonna have to do a reunion show next year at the hotel.
Yeah, I would love to.
On site. Let's do it.
I'm for it.
Perfect.
Well,
cool. Mark, I know you have things to do this
to do.
evening. But honestly, this is what I love about the beer community is that somebody like yourself is happy to come on here, talk about your vision, talk about your brand, talk about your beer. I think that's amazing. And we really appreciate you coming by. And this is the 4th Drekker beer I've had now, and you guys don't miss.
Yeah, they're all great.
Well, thank you guys very much. I appreciate you guys asking us to be on here. We love chatting. People that are listening, if there's any questions you guys have, you can hit us up on Instagram or Facebook Messenger. We've got a contact form thing on our website too. If you're healthy and staying off social media, that's good for you. But hit us up with any questions. We love learning what people are into, and we love chatting about beer. So thank you guys very much, and let's do it again on site one of these days.
I look forward to it.
Awesome.
Thanks, Mark.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.